Good evening. I wanted to stop by and share a few thoughts that I had with you as I was reading from Philippians 1, chapters 4 through 8 yesterday. I was just kind of flipping through the Bible, and I had asked God to give me a word to provide me with the scriptures that He wanted me to read and focus on. And so He led me here. And of course, we know that Paul is talking because he wrote the letter to the Philippians, and he gives instruction to them. He says, "Rejoice in the Lord always." And I think always is a very operative word because it means that we are to rejoice in God even when things are not going well in our lives. And a lot of times that is very difficult to do. I'll be the first to acknowledge that. But it's something that we are supposed to do. We are instructed to always rejoice in the goodness of God. Last week was rough for me. I found out that one of my current coworkers had died over the weekend, and I've worked with him twice before. I worked with him at my first school that I taught at, and then the school that I'm currently teaching at, and it hurt my heart. It really just broke me down. And then I also found out last week that a former student of mine that graduated in 2018 that she died of leukemia. And she was when she died, she was about 21 or 22. So I had to take that to God. I had to lay that at the feet of God because it was really hard for me to make sense of it. And I've decided as a result, I'm going to go visit her grave, and put flowers on her tombstone. So again, last week was rough, and it was kind of hard for me to focus on the goodness of God, but I really tried my hardest. And then a couple of weeks prior to that, another student from the same high school, she was murdered on Christmas morning, and she had two small children, and that just tore my heart to shreds. So I've had just a rough month. So I think God led me to this particular part of the Bible for a reason. It's also, I think it's best for us to be compassionate and gentle toward people because we never really know what other people are going through. And we just have to know. That's why we have to keep our focus forward, because God is near. We just have to hold on. We have to hold on. And sometimes the holding is difficult. I always feel like I'm on the edge. I feel like it's just going to take one thing to knock me clean off my square. But I just keep holding on. I'm holding on by a thread, by a hair, but I'm holding on. He also tells us in this letter to be anxious for nothing. And that means nothing. Not bills, not food, not clothing, not shelter, nothing. And that's why Jesus instructs us to worry about our daily bread, not far off into the future, what next week is going to bring. We have to focus on our day to day. If not, we'll go crazy. And it says in everything by prayer and supplication. Supplication means asking or begging for something earnestly or humbly with gratitude. We are always supposed to have gratitude in our hearts. I don't care what is going wrong in your life. And I know some people have plenty of things going wrong. And I've had periods in my life where nothing could go right. But I found that there is always something to be thankful for. And I really try my best to hold on to those things. In fact, I keep a jar on my dining room table. And I have strips of paper that I record anytime I receive a blessing. And it doesn't have to be anything significant. I remember one time I was just so pleasantly surprised that this stranger said hi to me, and he was just so happy to say it, and it just really put a smile on my face. And I put that in there. And sometimes the blessings are more significant, such as receiving a surprise check in the mail. But I really try to focus on that gratitude. Gratitude will get you through some of your toughest days. Every day I really try my hardest to think of at least three things. And not the same run of the mill things, food, clothing, and shelter. Well, yes, those are great blessings, especially in this day and age, but just things that I may not notice otherwise. And it says to ask God to carry your burdens, and you will receive the peace of God, and that sometimes we can't even understand it. We can't understand it. Those around us can't understand it. And some of the burdens that we bear in this life are so great that we can't carry them. We are not equipped to carry these burdens. So you have to give them to God. You have to. Your back isn't strong enough. You're going to be that bag lady Erykah Badu sings about. You're going to hurt yourself if you don't hand it over to God. Give it up. Give it away. And and what God does, you give him your burden and he gives you his holy peace. I can't think of anything more gratifying than that. And the peace that he gives us, the Bible says it will do two things. It says that it will guard your heart, which is very vital, because when we start becoming bitter and anxious, it impacts our heart. And we know that everything from our mouth flows from this source right here. We have to keep and the Bible warns us a myriad of times throughout, guard your heart, guard your heart, guard your heart. And God's peace will also guard our minds, and that is also extremely important. We know that the mind is a battlefield. When you can control your mind, you can control your life. When you can control your mind, you can control your mouth, which a lot of us, including myself, we have difficulty controlling what comes out of our mouths. And that is something that I am working on in this calendar year. And then Paul tells us that we should focus on whatever is true, honorable, right, pure, holy, lovely, good, and excellent. Those are the things that should fill our minds, because when they fill our minds, guess what? They're going to filter down to our hearts. So we have to focus on that. I know sometimes I get caught up with all the bad that is going on in the world. It's overwhelming at times. And then I'll start thinking about it and getting paranoid and scared and wondering if this is going to happen, that is going to happen. And I've also had a bad habit over the years, when I hear about something bad that somebody else is experiencing or has experienced, I think I must be next. So this is very difficult for me to focus on the good, and but I'm telling you, it brings so much peace. Like I just can breathe when I'm not focused on all the ill going on in the world. And then Paul was such an extraordinary person, because he stated that he learned to be content in all circumstances. And this is from Philippians chapter 11. And he says that he was content in poverty or prosperity, whether he was hungry or whether he was satiated, whether he was experiencing lack or he had a load of goodness. And that is the best way to be. That is the most balanced way to be, because we don't know what we're going to get in this life. The Bible says rain falls on the just and the unjust. And just by the virtue of being alive, you will experience some hardship. It's just inevitable. Everybody goes through it. I don't care how rich, how famous, how beautiful. It does not matter. And you have to learn to go with the ebb and the flow. And that is something that I am still working on. I've been in a desert season I've been in a season that's been so dry and desolate and barren for so long. If I told you how many years, you probably would not believe me, but it has been over 20 years and it has been hard. It has been painful. And I'm not saying that I have not had some oasis moments during this desert season of mine, because I have, but just overall, the land has been so parched. I cry out to God so much to relieve me from this period in my life. But because I've been here for so long, I have learned to live in it. And to be honest, I don't know how it'll be to be in an oasis. I don't know how it, I don't know. I don't know that I would even trust it, because I've been living like this for so long. But I do know, regardless of what I face today, tomorrow, what I faced yesterday, that God will give me the strength, because the Bible says I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And if I can do it, you can too. Good night.